Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are digging into one of the greatest stories ever told. It's a true epic. The saga of how simple little organisms living in the water completely transformed our planet into the green world we know and love today. This is the story of how plants conquered the land.
So, to get started, let me ask you a huge question. Think about the entire history of life on Earth, right? You've got dinosaurs, massive asteroids, the rise of humanity, all of it. But what was the one event that really, truly set the stage for everything else to happen on land?
You're looking at it. The moment plants made that incredible leap from the oceans onto solid ground. It's hard to overstate how big a deal this was. This migration, happening over hundreds of millions of years, totally changed the atmosphere, it changed the climate, and it created the habitats for literally every land animal that would ever exist.
Okay, but before we get into the nitty-gritty of their conquest, we've got to be clear on who the main characters in our story even are. What exactly is a plant? As it turns out, our whole understanding of that has changed a lot over the years.
See, way back when, scientists used what we call artificial systems. They just grouped plants based on how they looked. Leaf shape, color, that kind of stuff. The problem? You could end up putting two cousins in totally different families just because they looked a little different. So now, we use phylogenetic systems. It's all about building a family tree based on evolution and who's related to who. It tells a much, much better story.
So, keeping that family tree in mind, our story has to start where all life started, in the water. So let's meet the you get it, the ancestors of all plants, the incredibly important organisms we call algae.
And don't you dare underestimate these guys just because they're simple. Algae are absolute powerhouses. They're the foundation of pretty much every aquatic food chain. But get this, they perform at least half of all the photosynthesis on the entire planet. That's half the oxygen we breathe, thanks to algae. Now, algae isn't just one thing. It's a huge family, split into three main groups. And the big differences really come down to their chemistry, what kind of pigments they use to soak up sunlight, which gives them their color, and how they store that energy as food. And for our story, the real VIPs are the green algae. With their specific chlorophyll and starch storage, they are the direct ancestors of every single land plant.
All right, so after millions and millions of years chilling in the water, the first brave pioneers finally made the jump. Let's meet the Bryophytes. You probably know them as mosses.
This quote just hits the nail on the head. They really are the amphibians of the plant world. Kind of like a frog, they could hang out on land, colonizing damp rocks and soil, but they could never stray too far from home. They were still completely tied to the water to complete their life cycle.
And you can see this problem crystal clear when you look at how they reproduce. Their male gametes literally have to swim through raindrops or dew to find and fertilize an egg. No water, no reproduction. Game over. So yeah, they were on land, but they definitely weren't free.
So to truly, properly conquer the land, plants needed some serious upgrades. They needed to build some internal infrastructure. And this next giant leap forward came from a group called the Pteridophytes. Just think of ferns.
And the difference here was, it was revolutionary. While mosses were just these simple, low-growing mats without any special parts, ferns and their relatives evolved all the things we think of as a plant. Real roots to anchor in and drink up water, stems for support, and leaves to be super efficient solar panels.
So what was the secret sauce? The game-changing tech that made all this possible? It was one of the most important adaptations in the history of life: vascular tissue. For the very first time, plants had their own internal plumbing system. They had xylem to pull water up from the ground and phloem to move food around. This let them grow tall, fight for sunlight, and finally start breaking free from needing to be wet all the time.
Okay, so now plants can grow tall and live in drier spots. Awesome. But they still had that one big wet problem from the moss era. They still needed water for fertilization. Solving this final puzzle would lead to the two groups that absolutely dominate our planet today.
Solution number one came from the Gymnosperms. The name literally means naked seed. Think of a pine tree and its pine cones. Instead of releasing little swimming gametes, they developed pollen. This tiny, tough little package could be carried by the wind, completely cutting water out of the reproductive equation. The seed that forms is just exposed, sitting right there on the cone.
But evolution wasn't finished. There was a second, even more successful solution: the angiosperms, also known as the flowering plants.
They took that seed idea and built a little safe around it, a protective chamber called an ovary, which then develops into a fruit. And this led to two totally different but brilliant strategies. Gymnosperms mostly play a numbers game, chucking tons of pollen into the wind and hoping for the best. But angiosperms developed a secret weapon, the flower. By using flowers to attract animals like bees and birds, they made pollination way more targeted and efficient. And by wrapping their seeds in a tasty fruit, they basically tricked those same animals into planting their seeds for them all over the place. A genius move that let them take over the world.
So, there you have it. What an incredible journey, right? An evolutionary marathon that took life out of the water and completely reshaped the surface of our world. Let's just do a quick recap of the major milestones in this incredible conquest.
Every single step on this timeline is a brilliant answer to a huge life-or-death problem. You have the first baby steps of the mosses, then the internal plumbing of the ferns, and finally the game-changing inventions of the seed and the flower. It's just an amazing story of adaptation and innovation, one step at a time.
You know, this whole journey really is the story of life itself. Just this constant process of overcoming challenges, leading to more and more complexity and diversity. And it really makes you wonder, looking at the challenges life faces on Earth today, what incredible innovation is brewing just around the corner. Thanks for joining this explanation.